This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey guys, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle. How are you guys tonight? Come in with our marching band music. Makes you feel nostalgic for some of the old days, doesn't it? I love it. Hope you guys are great tonight. Another fun weekend of college football to talk about last weekend and coming up this weekend. So, gosh, buckle up. It's going to be a fun time. Listen, I want to thank, again, all the groups that will allow me to share this video later on, all of you that show up live today. Certainly, we welcome your comments. And if I'm sharing it to the groups, guys, you're going to get some really good, relevant content. I'll have Mark Mancini on with me in a few minutes. Guys, tremendous week last week in college football. We had some big upsets. The Pac-12 has been put in its place. By my estimations, BYU is in first place in the Pac-12 South with 3-0 record. So we'll dive into that a little bit. We obviously had Notre Dame, again, not playing that great. We had Georgia playing pretty well. We'll hear from Coach Shane Beamer from South Carolina on that game. He won't be here live, unfortunately, but a lot of other news, too. Lane Kiffin's Instagram account, we'll talk a little bit about that. There's a lot to cover. And as always, I want to welcome in my cohort now on college football, Mr. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. I was going to say good morning. Good evening and good afternoon, I guess, in your case, Mark. How are you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm always grateful and blessed to be a part of the two great shows that are sweeping this country. College Football Huddle here and that super grind on Sundays, that NFL show, man. So I'm blessed, man. You're the best, buddy.
Well, we're always glad to have you here. I don't know why my background is still that. Let me see if I can fix my background here quick. I don't like that one. I changed my background for the opening, and then suddenly, well, let me try something else. Talk. You got to tell a joke or something while I'm doing this. That's your job.
Yeah, you don't ever want dead air on it, but I'll tell you, man, I heard the opening, and boy, you talk about the topsy-turvy, what happened last week and everything. The first shocker is Western Michigan coming into Pitt and beating Pitt in that wild one, 44-41. So once you think Pitt turns the corner, would go undefeated till they start, getting in the ACC round, and they lay an egg. So go figure. Hopefully they can turn it around against New Hampshire this week.
Well, I hope they can pull that around. If they can't, then it's going to get a little ugly around there. That's for sure. A lot of big stuff. I mean, gosh, we'll start with the Pac-12 a little bit. I mean, my sleeper team and your sleeper team. I know you like Herm Edwards in Arizona State, and they laid an egg with 16 penalties against BYU. A BYU team that I said in the open seems to be the best team in the Pac-12 South right now. They've beaten 3 teams, and they've got more wins than any team against that the Pac-12 than anybody. And of course, my sleeper and kind of I was hoping Chip Kelly had kind of turned the corner, but they pulled us. UCLA pulls a stinker and blows 2 7-point leads and allows 2 75-yard drives in the last 7 minutes to lose to Fresno State. I mean, the Pac-12 all of a sudden is Oregon and everybody else again.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. And we'll start with your UCLA team. I mean, I've seen this dog and pony show for quite a while. I mean, even before Chip Kelly got there. I mean, years back they beat a Texas team, and then the next week they lay down against a San Diego State or something. And, now you beat an LSU and everybody walking around with the sissy blue T-shirts that Ed Orgeron made famous, and now you get a Fresno State team and everybody's saying, well, wait a minute, Fresno State almost beat Oregon. Come on, you were favored by 23 points in that game. And you get in a shootout with them, you come up short, and here we are again. And, talking about ASU, you're not going to win games creating penalties like that. And Herm Edwards is, he had a game like this last year against USC, opening game, and they had him down, and all of a sudden, the last 2 minutes or 3 minutes, USC started to make a comeback and rolled them. So, you can't struggle on the road. They got to fix it, and I think Herm Edwards will get back to the drawing board, man. They're not going to forget this game against BYU.
Yeah, he's going to have to. I mean, sticking in the Pac-12 a little bit. I mean, these losses hurt Oregon as much as they hurt anybody else, because for the Pac-12 to finally get another representative in the Final Four college football playoff, they need that league to be stronger than what they're showing right now. I mean, again, UCLA looked great against LSU. Maybe it speaks to where LSU is. I don't know, but right now the conference is not strong enough for Oregon probably to put up a strong, even with that great win at Ohio State. They're going to have to really win out and win impressively probably to have playoff considerations at the end of the season. Not
only that, when you look at a team like Cincinnati and then you look at Oregon and everybody goes, well, Oregon, they beat Fresno State, they beat Ohio State, and they beat Stony Brook. I mean, come on, these aren't actually world beaters here, but some of these teams that are in the middle of the pack in the AP poll here, they could take out an Oregon school here, because I don't think really, other than the Ohio State game, Oregon hasn't really been tested themselves. So, maybe we saw USC last year. Everybody was feeling giddy out here in Los Angeles when they were rolling everybody and heading into the Pac-12 championship, and Washington couldn't show up. And here came Oregon. They thought, oh, we'll just bring our undefeated record into this thing. And, well, you saw what Oregon did to them. So I think when you look at the rest of the country, looking at the Pac-12, they kind of look at it with maybe eyes wide shut. It's a good segue into the Pac-12. Obviously, Oklahoma still ranked in the top 4, but a very unimpressive win again for them. Second one in 3 weeks over a Nebraska team that's not that good. The Pac-12 and Iowa State has kind of taken. Well, Iowa State could be still in the running for that conference, obviously. But again, for the Pac-12 to get a representative into this playoff, it's going to be difficult if Oklahoma, continues to play these keep inferior teams in games like they have. I mean, they need some strength at the top here. And not only that, when you talk to USC fans, they tell you about the loss to Stanford. Well, Stanford's a very good team, and the week before Stanford was ruled, and I don't know, and the whole situation at USC. And I know we talked about it on Sunday. You got to open up your wallet, man. You got to pay to play in this college football scenario here. And if USC doesn't want to pay, and they want to bring in paper cup salesmen and car salesmen to coach their team, well, it's going to show. I mean, this is a team that hasn't won a championship in 18 years. For a big school like this, put up or shut up, I always say. And, we'll find out. This interim coach, Dante, they might rally around with him. They beat a Washington State team. I got to see more of it, but we'll find out at the end of the year what they're going to do. Maybe they'll give him a good contract if he finishes above the Mendoza line. Good point. That's the problem. Again, we talked about it, and that's how they ended up with Helton for so long as it was. He came as an interim and did okay, and they felt they had to keep him for continuity. And I don't think they want to find themselves in that same. Not that they want to lose. Don't get me wrong, but if they run the table or have a really good remainder of the season, and I mean, you might find maybe he'll turn into the next great coach. I don't know, but do you really want to go through the same process again a second time now in a row? I think the problem at USC is they want somebody that they can control. You start bringing in the Petersons, you start bringing in the Fickles, you start bringing in the Sabins, the Smarts, the Sweeneys. These are guys that are going to want complete control of your organization. They're not going to really respect you as an athletic director. They'll tell you to back up 6 feet, let me run the program, go take care of the volleyball, the underwater basket weaving events at the school. And that's the problem here. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. The other game, there's some other games of note from last weekend. I got to play this clip. Georgia looked really strong. Again,
And I don't think Rick Sherlock's here tonight. I wish he was. He's probably waiting for his Philly cheesesteak. I think I said cheesecake one time. I don't think he wants a Philly cheesecake, but he's probably home waiting for that to come in the mail. I don't know. So
we're gonna get it out to him, man. We start WWDB here October 14th. We've pushed it back a couple weeks, so cheesesteaks will be flying out of Philly going that way.
Well, I do know that Rick will see this show at some point. He'll watch it, and I do want to play this quick clip because Shane Beamer from South Carolina's head coach had, I think, the best clip of the year so far when he gets asked, a silly question about Georgia's scheme. So let's just watch this real quick. And
obviously they've got a really good defense.
It's a lot of fun.
What were they doing to maybe make things go on the offensive side and maybe being able to get a push?
Who was doing?
Georgia's defensive line. What were they doing to maybe make things difficult on the offense?
They've got like 100 5-star football players on their defense. They have a defensive lineman that weighs 340 pounds and runs better than everybody on this call. They've got 5-star defensive backs. They're big and physical and fast. I mean, other than that, they're really freaking good. That's why they have the top defense in the country. They're hard to run the football on. So there wasn't some magical scheme they came out with tonight. They got 5-star recruits everywhere, and they play really physical. Damn. And Ben, I didn't mean to be short. I just know they're not doing anything special on defense. They're really freaking good. And that is a fantastic front seven and a fast and physical defensive line. But scheme-wise, no. They line up, say, we're better than you, and we're physical, and come beat us. And that's what they did tonight, like they do every week. So I didn't mean to snap.
My favorite cut of the week is Shane Beamer. What?
After an asteroid
hold on, let me get rid of that.
Vistaprint helped me pivot to hot yoga.
Hold on one second. There we go. I had to get rid of that sound. So, yeah, it was my favorite cut of the week, Mark. And you know what? South Carolina is undermanned against Georgia, and to say that they have some special scheme to stop you tonight is Georgia showed what they're made of. And, they're depending on the poll you're looking at, they're 2 or they're 3. And they probably showed they may be the best team in the country because Alabama looks beatable all of a sudden.
Well, he might be right. He might be trying to sell some papers to run for governor.
He might be. Do you think Georgia has showed enough? I mean, again, look at Alabama was a 2-point conversion away from at least being in overtime against Florida. I called it last week. I thought they might beat them. I mean, to me, they were in position to beat them, so it's good enough for me to declare victory in my mind. But is Alabama? Do you think this was just a wake-up call for Alabama and a speed bump, or do you think they're vulnerable?
Well, I think sometimes the problem with Alabama, and if you look at their seasons, years past, even in the SEC championship game too, they start out slow, they go back and forth, and then they start to realize, well, you only got a few minutes to get this thing going here, and then they turn on the gas. So I think it was a wake-up call, but I'll tell you one thing, and a lot of people will tell me about the USC run years back with Leinart and Bush and Carroll and everything. I don't think I've ever seen a run like what Alabama's doing, is churning out quarterbacks, going back to McCarron, and you see the Mac Jones and the Tuas and all these guys that keep coming out, and now you got Bryce Young there. I'll tell you, Nick Saban is a genius, man. I'll tell you, even on his worst day, he's better than a lot of squads on their best day.
What's your thought about Bryce Young? Do you feel like he's the Heisman favorite at this point? And it's hard. I mean, we're only seeing 3 games, but I think our early favorites have fallen by the wayside. I'll tell you the kid I like after you give me your comments on.
I think when you go to Alabama, I think you're mentally prepared to play in the pros. I think you're I don't want to say you're more educated to pick up the playbook a lot faster than some of these other guys at some of the other universities, but I think the education you're getting, if you took this and looked at it from an NBA standpoint, to learn from a Larry Bird, a Dr. J, the late Kobe, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, compared to learning from maybe Kyrie Irving or somebody, you're getting a top education hands-on across the board. And I think what Nick Saban's done is mentally prepare these people to play in the pros. And, if you go to New England right out of Alabama, it's almost like a pipeline right over there. So, Belichick's cut out of that same mold and everything, and I just think you have an upper hand. And look at the players, not even the quarterbacks that come out of Alabama. Just look at the players come out of there compared to some of the quarterbacks that have come out of USC going into the pros. It's a whole different ball game, man. I just think they're just mentally tough, and they're just ready to play professional football when you graduate from Alabama.
Well, I mean, you're playing the SEC. It's almost like playing, AAA, baseball below the NFL. Obviously, we always have these debates. Can the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Alabama Crimson Tide? Well, yes, the worst NFL team is always going to beat the best NFL or NCAA team. It's men against boys still, regardless of how you look at it. But the SEC is the next best thing to the NFL right now. I mean, they've got the best team. I mean, we've talked about Alabama. We've talked about Georgia, and Georgia may very well be better than Alabama, but they've got teams to watch too. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's doing a great job. 61-21 win last week. Matt Corral, his quarterback, is my guy for the Heisman right now. I had Sam Howell early, and he's kind of fell out of the race. But this league has gotten really, really, really deep.
Well, not only that, if you want, the Pac-12 always, stands there on their high horse and says, nobody's paying attention to us out here. Well, if you put all your games on at 10:30 at night in Alabama, they're exhausted. They've gone home for the evening. They're not watching anything. If anything, they might be up there watching the local news. But you put you put a Stanford USC game on. The thing ends at 2:15 in the morning back east time. You put another game on late at night. Fresno State and UCLA. If you're trying to garner people to watch that and try to get these voters to sway their decision on you, who's standing up till 1 a.m. to watch that thing conclude?
That's a good point.
The problem.
Yeah, and they've put all they've labeled it. I had trouble coming up with a name last week, but they call it the Pac-12 After Dark. That's what they want to build this as.
Start the games at 9 a.m. out here, so that way then wake up early, have a Denver omelet, you have your coffee or sourdough toast minus the butter, and that way then the East Coast can see your games at the same time they're watching an Alabama game or getting ready for an Alabama game.
Well, they get all excited about all these, super games, and there are some super games and super happenings that happen in this Pac-12 After Dark series. But the problem is nobody except the West Coast sees it. I find out about it in the morning. So again, back to the SEC again. Arkansas is a big surprise there. You got A&M who's strong. This league is top to bottom. Before I move on from Ole Miss. Interesting story. Also, Lane Kiffin has cleared out his Instagram account. I don't know if you saw this story today, but Lane Kiffin's Instagram account now consists of his quarterback, Matt Corral, maybe moving up to one of the favorites for the Heisman, and one Arch Manning, who is, I believe, in 9th grade now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he's in 10th. I'm not sure. He's been recruited for the last 2 years. The next great Manning, Lane Kiffin, is going all out to try to get him to come where his uncle Eli went and his granddad went to college.
I'll tell you one thing. I love Lane Kiffin. I liked him at USC. And he's flamboyant. He kind of reminds me of John Gruden.
Yeah.
And he's married to like a supermodel. He goes to these programs. He goes to, Alabama, kind of has a tiff and a taff with, Nick Saban. He ends up leaving and, he just resurfaces. He takes his traits all over the, the SEC and, he goes to Florida. I mean, you got to like this guy. And, I always say if you want to turn your program around, just give him a boatload of money. He'll turn it around. He reminds me of the guy, in some ways that was a little flamboyant in himself too. I don't know if he had the supermodel wife with Steve Spurrier.
I think his wife was okay. I don't know if she was a supermodel, but she wasn't, he wasn't going to kick her shoes out from under his bed. I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah. Those are great comparisons, though. I think for Lane Kiffin, they're all have the same type of personality, right down to the visors. They're all wearing visors out there. So, watch out for that Ole Miss team. If they play any defense, and they're playing better defense right now, this team's going to be tough. Are they ready to beat the Alabamas and the Georgias? Well, we'll find out.
I talked to a good friend of mine, Evie Van Pelt, that covers the Rebel Milwaukee. You got to get her on your show, man. She's great and covers Ole Miss and everything. And I'll tell you, keep your eyes on these guys. You're absolutely right. Ole Miss is a tough team, man. And, this is a team that I've always said, middle of the pack team. They can smash any Pac-12 team on any given day, too.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Here, Rick Sherlock has showed up. He says, "Hey, Mark, how about those Bulldogs?" Rick, make sure you go back and watch the beginning of the show if you weren't here, because I played the clip of Shane Beamer after the Georgia game and after they got their clocks cleaned by your Bulldogs. So we'll give some credit now.
Yeah.
Because they played Clemson, obviously, they played and won, but they didn't score any offensive touchdowns. Now they're scoring touchdowns against real teams. And I think Georgia may be the best team in the country. We'll see. And Rick also says Manning will sign with Georgia, but I guess,
Wow.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I think the big question, Rick, is, they get another SEC championship game, and it's against Alabama. This time you got to get the job done.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. Kirby Smart's a great coach, but Kirby Smart, if again, right now, I think he's got the better team than Alabama. We'll see.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give Rick some kudos here. I think his team might be better than Alabama, but as you said, Mark, if he doesn't get it done this time, he's going to start getting that label about not being able to win the big one.
Yeah, if he doesn't win it this time, consider him a bridesmaid.